Picture two people standing side by side. Person A has a net worth of zero. Through years of grinding, saving, and smart decisions, they finally crossed $250,000. Person B already had $250,000. Through investing in time, their money grows into $1 million. Now ask yourself this question. Which one of these people feels like their life has changed more? Most people would say person B. After all, $1 million sounds 4 times better than $250,000. 4 times the freedom, 4 times the success, 4 times the happiness, right? But here's the strange truth almost nobody talks about. Person A is the one whose life actually transforms. Their stress drops, their confidence rises, their relationship with money completely shifts. Person B, on the other hand, often feels surprisingly the same. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why the first $250,000 you build does more to change your life than the next $750,000 that turns it into $1 million. And once you understand this, it's going to change the way you think about building wealth forever. Here's the belief almost everyone carries around without realizing it. Wealth only really counts once you hit a big, round, impressive number. $1 million. That's the finish line. That's when you've made it. So what happens when people believe this? They look at their bank account, see a few $1,000s, maybe 10 or 20,000, and they think, this is nothing. I'm so far from where I need to be. What's even the point of saving a few $100s a month when the goal is $1 million? This is the same feeling as standing at the bottom of a mountain and only caring about the summit. You ignore every step in between because none of them feel like the goal. So a lot of people either give up early or they wait for some future version of themselves with a bigger salary to start taking money seriously. This belief feels logical, but it's based on a misunderstanding of how money, and more importantly, how psychology actually works. Because the real transformation in your financial life doesn't happen at the $1 million mark. It happens much earlier and much quieter, somewhere around that first $250,000. To understand why, we need to talk about two very different forces that build wealth: your own effort and compound growth. In the beginning, when your net worth is small, almost all the growth in your money comes from you, your behavior, your paycheck, your discipline. If you have $5,000 saved and you add $1,000 this month, that's a 20% increase. Investment returns barely matter yet because there's not much money for those returns to act on. This is the hardest stretch of the entire wealth-building journey. It's like pushing a heavy snowball up a hill. Every bit of progress takes real effort. There's no momentum helping you. You're doing all the work. But here's what happens once you cross somewhere around $250,000. The math starts to shift in your favor. At that point, a typical long-term investment return, say around 8% a year, isn't just a small bonus anymore. It's real money. On $250,000, that's about $20,000 a year without lifting a finger. That's close to what some people earn from a part-time job, except this job never asks you to show up. Now picture rolling that same snowball over the top of the hill. Suddenly gravity does the work for you. It picks up speed. It picks up more snow on its own. You barely have to push anymore. This is the moment your money starts working as hard as you do, sometimes harder. Getting from $250,000 to $1 million still takes time, but a huge portion of that growth comes from compounding, not from squeezing every extra dollar out of your paycheck the way you had to before. So mathematically, the first $250,000 requires the most personal effort per dollar earned, and the next $750,000 increasingly relies on a force you already set in motion. You're no longer the only engine. Your money has become an engine too. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the real shift isn't just mathematical, it's psychological. And this is the part most people completely miss. Reaching your first $250,000 doesn't just change your bank balance. It changes who you are. Think about what it actually takes to get there from zero. You had to learn to live below your means. You had to say no to impulse purchases. You had to build the habit of automatically saving instead of spending. You had to learn how investing works instead of being scared of it. You had to develop patience in a world built to make you impatient. In other words, to reach that first $250,000, you had to become a different person.
A person who manages money instead of being managed by it. That identity shift is the real wealth. The number is just evidence that the shift happened. Now compare that to someone going from $250,000 to $1 million. Most of that growth doesn't require a new identity. It doesn't require new habits. It mostly requires patience and staying out of your own way. You already built the hard skills. Now you're just letting them compound. This is why two people with wildly different net worths can feel surprisingly similar internally, while two people with closer net worths, say $0 and $250,000, can feel like they're living in completely different emotional worlds.
Someone with $250,000 in savings and investments usually has something far more valuable than the money itself: options. They can cover a job loss without panicking. They can leave a toxic workplace without fear. They can say, "I'll think about it," instead of "I need this paycheck no matter what." Their nervous system relaxes in a way it never could at zero. Someone going from $250,000 to $1 million already had most of that breathing room. The jump from $1 million to $4 million follows the same pattern. More zeros, but often a surprisingly similar day-to-day life. The yacht and mansion fantasy is mostly that, a fantasy. The biggest emotional jump almost always happens at the beginning, not the end. This is sometimes called the psychology of enough. Once your basic safety, freedom, and stress relief needs are met, additional money still helps, but it helps less and less. The first dollars buy peace of mind. The next dollars buy comfort. The dollars after that mostly buy bigger numbers on a screen. So what does this actually mean for you, especially if you're nowhere near $250,000 right now? It means you need to stop treating the $1 million number as the only milestone that matters. It's not the finish line. It's barely even the halfway point of the transformation. The real turning point is much closer than you think. Instead, focus on these three things. First, protect your savings rate before you worry about investment returns. In the early stage, your habits matter more than your portfolio's performance. A consistent person saving steadily will outperform an inconsistent person chasing the perfect investment. Second, automate the boring stuff. Set up automatic transfers into savings and investments the moment your paycheck arrives. This removes willpower from the equation, and willpower is the most unreliable resource you have. You're not relying on motivation, you're relying on a system. Third, track your progress in stages, not in one giant number. Celebrate your first $1,000. Celebrate your first $10,000. Celebrate your first $50,000. These early milestones are doing more psychological heavy lifting than people realize, because each one rewires your identity a little more toward becoming someone who builds wealth on purpose. And once you do cross that first $250,000 mark, trust the process more than you push it. This is the stage where patience becomes more powerful than hustle. The system you built is now working alongside you. Let it. So the next time you look at your savings and feel discouraged because you're only at $10,000 or $30,000 or $80,000, remember this: you're not behind. You're in the hardest, most important part of the entire journey, the part where you're building the version of yourself who knows how to handle money. The $1 million number gets all the attention because it sounds impressive, but the quiet, unglamorous climb to your first $250,000 is where the real transformation happens. That's where stress turns into security. That's where fear turns into confidence. That's where a person who struggles with money becomes a person who understands it. Maybe the real question isn't, how do I become a millionaire? Maybe it's, who do I need to become before the money even matters? Because by the time you answer that question, you might just find that the money was never really the goal. It was always just proof of the person you became while building it.